Welcome to course Data Analysis and Visualization using Microsoft Excel. We are into week 6 and what we are going to do in this week, we are covering pivot tables, lookup functions. Recap of the previous week in the last week 5, what we did. We learned about the conditional functions and their applications. We learned how we can use nested functions for multiple conditions. We learned about text functions and their applications. In fact, we used OR and logical functions as well with if function. After that, in this week, what we are going to cover, we are covering pivot tables first. In the pivot tables, what we will be doing, we will be covering introduction, structuring of pivot tables, options available with pivot tables, how we can do the formatting of pivot tables, and then we will learn about lookup functions, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, index, match, XLOOKUP, and in the last we will learn about offset function. This is the table of contents for week 6. So what are the learning objectives for this week? In this session we will gain knowledge about various aspects of pivot tables. We will learn the large set of data using pivot tables, how to apply lookup functions to get desired results whenever you are doing analysis at that time. This function, lookup function, is a great help for the analysis. How to combine multiple functions in a worksheet. Let's start this pivot table. So what is pivot table? First we need to understand that it's basically uses to summarize and reorganize the data. We have the data with us, and after that, you want to apply some kind of formulas on that, you can do that. Once you are done with this all formula thing and everything, after that, you need a data summarization. For this data summarization, Microsoft Excel already provided us a tool that is known as pivot table. So whenever there is a need to get the data summary from your Microsoft Excel data, what you can do, you can use pivot table. So how we can use pivot table? Pivot table, it's easy to use. You just need to go to insert and then table, and from that table you can look for pivot table. What are the sections? How we can reorganize our data, how we can get the data summary. We have different sections there, and in this section, whatever fields we want to put, whatever rows we want to put, what kind of data we want to provide, we can do that. So we can deal with fields, we can deal with filters, we can deal with rows, and we can also deal with the columns. So just have a look. For an example, we will be doing it in Microsoft Excel as well, but before that we can go through this example. In this example, we have a data set. In this data set, we have different columns. The column is country, industry, client name, fiscal period, currency, FX, revenue, and margin. So we have that data with us, and in countries we have data for US, UK. I can see some different countries, Germany as well. In industry we have automotive, and client names are different here. Pitt, Nilan, Ember. You can see here we have the fiscal period as well. Currency is mentioned in USD or GBP, and in FX we have some digits here, and revenue as well, and margin as well. So we are going to apply pivot table by using insertion and then choosing table and then coming to pivot table. In this pivot table, what kind of data summary we can have? So if I apply pivot table on this data set, in that case, I can get the output like this. In this output, I have a country, revenue, and margin. So this is basically for each country. So like in this data set, we can't see some other countries like Denmark, France, but it is a huge data. And from that huge data, you can have a collective information for one particular country. So Australia, in case of Australia, we have the total revenue, we have the total margin with us. Similarly, for the Canada as well, we have total revenue as 87,000, margin as 36,000. And similarly for other countries like Denmark, France, Germany, India, Italy, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, Thailand, UAE, UK, USA, and in the last row, we have the grand total with us for the revenue as well as the margin. This set of data is basically, you can just think of an example that we have some approximately 600 rows or 6,000 rows, and out of that data, rather than going through everything, what you can do, you can apply pivot table on that data and get the data summary, and now you can actually have the report in your hands, and you are not doing any kind of filtration or something. You're just going through some basic steps, and then this you are getting this data for the revenue and the margin, and for your own data set as well. You can have similar kind of data summary, and in this way you can organize the data. So how we can do that? We learned about the output. Let's go further. So next is pivot table structuring. How we can do that structuring? Select a range of data and insert a pivot table. First, like we are talking about that we need to apply a pivot table. Before that, we should actually select the range as well. So drag and drop the fields of data in various sections. We will learn about this while doing the practical. So once you select this, you will get this output. Let me open my data here, and here also what we are doing, we are going through that financial sample data set only. So this is financial sample. In week 3, week 4, we use same data set, and you will be provided with the data set as well again. Let me delete the pivot table before. So this is my main data, or I can go through this. This is my data here. So we have data for different columns. These columns are segment, country, product, discount band, units sold, manufacturing, sale price, gross sales, some discounts, sales, COGS, profit, date, month number, year. And we have how many rows with us for this data set? Let's just go through with that as well. Let me scroll it down. We have approximately 670, or it is something more than this 100. So we have 700 records for here. This is the same table where we applied all those functions as well. You can see it here, the sum function, minimum function, maximum function, it is applied here only. So we are using same table for applying pivot table as well. So let me go to the slide back and just see the what it is saying. So it is selecting the range of data and insert a pivot table. So first you need to have that table's data as well. So the steps to get that is that you need to go to insert. In that insert, click on pivot table, and in that pivot table, once you have clicked this pivot table, you will get window like this. This window is shown as well here also. So let me close it and come back the slide. So you can see here this kind of window will be displayed once you click on table insert and pivot table. So you will get this window. There you need to choose the what data you're talking about. So choose the data that you want to analyze. Select a table or range. So by default, it will be showing you where you are at currently present. So it will be showing you the current sheet, your existing sheet. You can use any external source as well. Once you are done with that, this is where you are providing the source of that data where you want to apply the pivot table. After that, you need to choose where you want to put the pivot table report to be placed. So you want to have it on new worksheet, or you want to have an existing location. Similarly, you can choose that and click on OK. So let's do this. And my this main data sheet, the name of the sheet is main data. And we already talked about the columns and the number of rows we have with this data. Now, what I'm doing, I'm going back to insert pivot table. In this pivot table, by default, it is giving this range, that is financials. So where you want to put this table now, choose where you want to have the pivot table. For now, I will be choosing new worksheet. In case if I click on the existing worksheet, I need to provide the location in which column you want to start this pivot table. For now, I will be clicking on new worksheet and I'll put here OK. So once I'm done with this, I am forwarded to a new sheet. You can see here this main data is here, sheet 1 is here. And this kind of output you will get. Pivot table fields is written here, and some pivot table to build a report. Choose fields from the pivot table feed list is shown here. This is the main data where I applied that, and this is the new sheet that has been created with the pivot table. We will learn about this as well. Let's start. So this is again telling to choose the particular table or range. And once you have this thing with you, you can see one more tab is enabled here. And that tab is pivot table analyze. And this is the pivot table fields. As you have seen here in the slide, we can see it on the Microsoft Excel as well. Once you have clicked, I'll repeat it again, insert pivot table, and you just need to click on that. Once you have clicked that, you will be forwarded to a new worksheet in case you have selected to create it into the new worksheet. If you are doing it to the existing worksheet, I need to tell the exact location, and then you will be getting all these things in the same sheet as only. But for a good interface, what we are doing, we are having that pivot table in the another worksheet. So this time what has been enabled? This is a new tab, that is pivot table analyze has been enabled. Plus we are having this output pivot table fields. Here you can see we talked about this. We have four different things, that is filtration, columns, rows and values. And in this we can actually go through the number of columns which has been part of this main data. So all the columns are listed here. Now it is up to you how you want to segregate these columns here. Let's come to the slide again. So this is where we need to choose the fields to add to the report. Now it is up to you. You want to drag it or drop it to the filter or to the column or to the rows or to the values. And how we can do this? In the same example, like if we see this example, in this example we have country, industry, client name, fiscal period, currency, FX, revenue and margin. And in this pivot table, three fields has been considered, that is country, revenue and margin. So if you look at the output for this way, here you can see here only three fields are selected, that is country, revenue and margin. Once these are selected and country is forwarded to the rows, so that is why in the rows we can see the countries, and in the columns we have the values, and values are what? Revenue and the margin. So in this way we had the pivot table with us. So it is up to us what actually we want to see, and accordingly we can have the output with us. Next in the structuring, just see about this. So we learned about that. Now we are here to explore other tables. Before that, let's try this pivot table thing on our data, that is financial sample. So I will be going here. So let me choose something here. So I will be doing same thing. So I'll be selecting country here, and then I will be selecting, maybe this time we can select the profit. You can see here, once you have selected that, this sum of profit is into the value. So row labels we have the country names, and sum of profit is written, and here it is the grand total is written here. So you just click here only. If I select here the maybe sale price as well, let me select it here. So it has been added here also. Let me have some other inputs as well. So we have the price for now, we have the profit for now, and similarly I can have the gross sales as well. Sales is also given, and then we can have some other output like units sold, discount band. So these are all output we can have it here. So it is up to you how you want to expand the data with you. So this way you can choose the number of columns here. Filtration, if you want to apply any particular filtration, you can do that as well. Next, the another option is that whenever you're clicking on the values, by default it is providing you the sum of the profit. So sum of the profit for the Canada itself you have here. Sum of sale price is here. Sum of gross sales is here. Sum of units sold is here. So I can choose any another function as well. How I can do that? Let's try that also. You can remove it here from here only. Value field setting. From value field setting, you can have the count with you. So if I click on this count function and click on OK, you'll have count of profit. So number of rows or number of results that belongs to Canada is resulted are here. Is it? It's written here. Similarly, you can change it for sale price as well. You can change it for the gross sales as well. You can change it for the units sold as well. Again, I'll click on that and I'll click value field setting. I can go with other functions as well. So I have the option to choose average, maximum, min function, product function, count number, standard deviation with population, variance with population. All these functions I can choose here. Choose the type of calculation that you want to use to summarize data from the selected field. In fact, you can look for a particular format also for the numbers as well. What format, in which format you want to have the output here only. And you can give another name also. If maybe for the sum, let me write here the total. So I can click on that. If I click here, so I have this column name as total, but it is for the sum only. So I can have my own name as well for particular field. So this is sum of sales. In this way, with the pivot table, you can have data summary with you. Number of fields you can choose, what kind of output you want to have, you can have it there only. Let's include some other things here. Let me include year here also. Now, how I'm clicking here for the year. Now you can see it here how perfectly the data is summarized here. For the Canada year 2013-14, you have the data differently. For the France, for the year 2013 and 2014, you have data differently. This is the sum only. And similarly for the Germany, similarly for the Mexico, United States of America, and in the end you have the grand total. In fact, you have the another option, like when you are clicking on this country that time, or maybe you have the values here, that time you can actually add or remove the fields which you want to use it on your site. Let's explore some other functions as well. You have added year here. Let me click it to the columns. Now you can see the change in the output. In the rows, we have the country. In the columns, we have the year. In that, now you have it for a different year. 2013, 2014 is written here. Similarly, for 2013-14 for the sale price, sum of gross sales 2013-14, sum of units sold 2013-14, and we have for similarly for other things as well. Here is written here. So it is up to you how you want to have that output with you. Let me remove this year field now. I'm removing it from here, and let me see any other field I can enter here only to get a different type of data. Let me include that as well. This time what we have, you can just have a look on that. This time I can click on month number. Rather than year, I'm adding month number. And that month number I want to have a look into, which this is sum of month number. Let me pass it to the rows. So you will have something output like this. This is for January, February, March, April, May, and similarly till December. We have the data set with us. Canada, France, and similarly for other countries as well. So this is the basic outlook how this pivot table is working. How we can have it, we need to go to the main data. There, then insert, click on the pivot table. You'll be asked for a different worksheet. Once you have selected different worksheet, at that time this pivot table analyze tab will be enabled, and we will be exploring it in new in all the ribbons, everything in a few minutes. And the other thing is we having that is pivot table fields. There we have the option for the filters, columns, rows, and values. And you can decide how you want to have the output with you, how many columns you want to include. You want to have it into the rows, you want to have it into the columns, you want to have it into the values, and what kind of value you need. You have different options with you. The options are you can have sum, you can have the count, you can have the average, you can have the max, min, product, count numbers, standard deviation with population, variance with population. These functions you can choose, and you can go with your own name also for the column name, and you can choose a particular number format as well.